Greetings. Welcome to Powered by Nyame. I'm your guide and host, Kwesi Kunadu. This episode, our focus will be the concept of Planned Parenthood and what I've learned over the years about this idea of planning for having a family and children and the parenthood that comes immediately thereafter. So, I want to begin with a story from my undergraduate years in college. When I was about 18 years old, perhaps 19, but more likely 18, I was talking to a young woman who was older than me. I think she was 21 and I was 18. And I remember her saying to me at some point during our talking that I'm the kind of man then that she would want to marry, but not now, because she wanted to have fun. And I said, cool, no problem. Now, what I took away from that was that, well, I wasn't fun. I wasn't the kind of fun that she wanted. Maybe because I didn't drink or smoke or do drugs and those kinds of things. Whatever the reasons are, it's not that important to our story here. Because the real story here is this idea or the ideas that we bring into planning or think we're planning for parenthood and therefore family. So you have the idea of Planned Parenthood that is so ludicrous. Now, there's an organization, as you all know, called Planned Parenthood, which, as one comedian said, is for people who don't plan to be parents. But guess what? We all don't and can't plan. Even the best people that plan down to the moon cycle for their menstrual cycle when they ovulate, down to whether it's a rhythm method for ejaculation, whatever strategies or tactics they employ in thinking that they're planning or believing that they're planning for parenthood, all that is a misnomer, all that is fiction and false. Because parenting cannot be planned for. In other words, once the sperm and the egg find your union, and even before then, how they find the union and if they find the union are beyond our control. That is, once those little microscopic, things that become a being or beings, find, their own little, reunion or their own meeting ground, everything else is out of our control. And so, and even if, let's say the sperm is healthy and then the egg isn't, or vice versa, the egg is fertile, but the sperms aren't ready. There's a lot of things can go wrong. A whole lot of things has to happen and be right for conception. And even after conception, there's a whole lot that can happen in those 9 months on average of pregnancy that cannot go right, that can go sideways. And so this idea that parenting can be planned for is really a fiction. I want us to get us out of our head. That said, and if you agree with me that this is a fiction, that is the idea of planning or not planning, because parenting cannot be planned for, then I want us to think about this. You see, what I've learned over the years is this. You see, what I was told when I was 18, that I'm the kind of man that I want to be marriage material, but I wasn't fun at that moment. What that woman was saying to me was this, is that, I had certain qualities or features that would make a suitable married person, but also ideas about marriage and therefore, family is that, marriage and family is not fun. It's about responsibility and about the children and so on. But I want to turn all that on its head. Let's start with this notion of parenting. First and foremost, children from immaterial spiritual beings who in the other side, that is in the village or in the spiritual side of things, are fully grown adults that are hundreds, in fact thousands of years old, because their clock, their chronology doesn't follow our calendar. So they're at least hundreds and thousands of years old. These are fully mature beings that enter this world through somebody's womb as infants and children, but they're not properly or rightfully children, right? That is their spirit that come into this matter called our physical bodies. And so these beings that choose their parents or choose the womb and the sperm that will become their parents, their choice is based on a number of factors that have almost nothing to do with the people that they select, right? Now, granted, they obviously see something or there is a purpose as to why they choose certain people to come through in certain circumstances that those people are in to come through. And sometimes a child will enter a womb and will be born or will not be born, will be aborted, on its own or through some so-called freak accident or incident, and then they will be aborted. The physical body be aborted, but then the spirit, of course, will return back from whence it came, because whatever is happening in the timing, in the season of the life of that couple, the life of that potential mother and father, is just not the right time for those or that child. And so children, first and foremost, as spiritual beings, and they're born as children, choose their parents. We don't choose the children, right? That's hubris. That's arrogance. Second principle that I want you to hold on to is this. If children choose, or those beings that come into this world, come in through the portal of the womb as infants and babies and toddlers and, so on and so forth, if they in fact choose their parents, then parenting obviously can't be planned, because they and not we are doing the planning. What's more is that, as a second principle, is this. That statement I was told at 18 was this, is that what that young lady saw in me is that I was a family guy. I've always been a family guy, about family. And since I was very young, I saw myself as being the father for a lot of children. Why, I don't know. Where does it come from? I don't really know, nor does it really matter. But I've always had this sort of, buzz and feeling about me, about being a father to a lot of children. And so because I was a family guy, because I put family first, and how would she know that? She may not know. But again, remember, spiritual beings and figures talk and walk through us all the time. And so it doesn't have to be from her head and heart. It could be in a moment where there's a spirit speaking through it saying, yes, you are a family guy. You are marriage material, which means that don't spoil your seeds. Don't spoil your time. Don't waste your energy and seeds on these wasteland of young women who simply just want to have fun, because your seed is not meant for fun. They're meant for the purpose of building that family that had lots of children, for which you were destined, you being me, to have. You see? And so what the young lady, or through her, was saying to me was that, you wait your time. Because remember, especially from previous episodes of this channel, when we talk about love, that you can't go looking for love. Likewise, you can't go looking for family and therefore parenting. Love will find you. She, if you're a man, will find you. He, right, if you're a woman, he will find you. That is the one that's made for you, right? The one that's going to be your life partner, that's going to complement you, that's going to be that figure and force to match who you are, what you bring to the table, to be that other hand, that left hand to the right hand in parenting, right? And so that's what that 21-year-old woman, or whoever was speaking through her to me, was saying to me, is that save your seed, save your energy, save your family man's attitude and persona for the right woman that would be that partner to bring forth through both of you, that will parent those multitudes of children that you too were brought here to bear and to grow and nurture, right? The third principle that I've learned over the years is this, is that we sometimes misinterpret and misunderstand these messages we receive, like I did. Now, that one was clear to me when I was 18. But later on in life, in my early 30s, I had a dream. I had a dream while dating someone that I saw this person with two daughters of mine, and I thought, this is long before they were born, by the way, and I saw everything about them, down to their shade of African brown, their height, everything, their face. I saw all the details long before they were born. And in seeing that, I then believed that this person was supposed to be the mother and therefore the partner through in life for carrying these children. Come to find out later, hopefully it had been sooner, but later, that wasn't the case. That this person had no interest in being parent, at least to children that I was supposed to bring to this world, with my partner, which was not her. So I misinterpreted that dream. I misinterpreted the message. And I spent 16, 17 years in that mistake. And so the lesson and takeaway for me and for you all is that because parenting can be planned for, because it is simply fiction and hubris to think we can plan for it, what we can do is be very, very conscientious of whom we, as men, share our seed with, and whom we decide to have fun and the consequence of having fun, or whom we think are the ones to match us in that parenting equation, right? Because misinterpreting or misunderstanding or not listening to the messages and the insights given from the spirits that ride with us, either as guardian spirits or as other forces, and they communicate to us, or ancestral forces that communicate to us on the regular, right? We can make cataclysmic mistakes in this notion of parenting and therefore in family. And for me, what I've learned is just that, is that my misinterpretation, had a 17, 18-year consequence that I'm still dealing with, right? Now, I'm much better from that. And I'm sharing that betterment with you all to say that that's the third principle. That is, being very conscientious, be very diligent. If your heart and spirit is something not right about you and that person, listen to it, follow it. If you're doing things that are out of your norm, and for example, you are, irritated and angry, with this person, the person's always trying to pacify you, something is wrong. Get out of there, get up out of there and move on. If, there's a moment where you say, man, something's just not right here, listen to it, move on. Because more than likely, those are the clues and the cues to say that this is not the match, this is not the partner. And yes, there are some people in this world for whom they had no desire to be parents, or they just want to have fun, just like that 21-year-old told me when I was 18. And that's cool. It's just not the match for you. And so you politely and kindly say, this is not going to work out, and move on, right? And let's say you do have a child, right? Or you have more than one child with that person that you've made the mistake with. There's nothing wrong with still moving on, because it's one thing to make a mistake. It's another thing to live with that mistake as if it's a imprisonment. You can always move on and allow yourself to have that match find you, because that match can't find you if someone else is blocking the place and the gateway to you, right? And so, yes, I've also learned that sometimes you have to let go of your loved ones in order to save them, right? And that may seem counterintuitive, but it is very much true. Sometimes you have to let go of them for the moment. And that moment may be months, maybe a few years, to go back and save them. Because you need to get yourself right from that mistake or error or misinterpretation so that you can go back whole and ready to assume the place of the man or the woman that you're supposed to be for that child or those children. So don't think that having a child is the hardened cement that makes you have to stay in a relationship that is not meant for you. Do not. You can find and need to find a way to extricate yourself from that relation so that you can become the person and be the parent for that child or children that come out of that relationship. And I've seen people get stuck and thinking that because I have children, I can't move, or I can't leave, or I can't let it go. What are people going to think? How are they going to look at me? Those are voices that are not ones in tune with your spirit. Your spirit and your soul will guide you as your GPS and as your compass. Listen to it, right? Listen to it. The fourth and final takeaway that I've learned about this equation of parenting is that a lot of the work for parenting takes place long before you meet that partner. That is, you and I, and I've learned this over the decades, have to engage in our ongoing work on ourselves. And so when you decide, or when you think, or when you accidentally, right? Because most of us are accidents. We don't, when your mother and father met and they had, whatever moments they had, between the sheets, that's an accident, meaning it wasn't planned, right? And even when they did decide to have children, the exactness of it can't be planned. And so we are all accidents in that sense, right? Because we're all out of the timing of human beings, right? The other forces and figures that essentially decide, the chemistry that creates the combustion for us being created. And so when that happens, and long before that happens, we have to make sure that we are ready to be parents. We are ready to be the parent for the children that's going to choose us, meaning this, to be more concrete. So I had to, look at myself, look at my inheritance from my biological father, who's not really a father, to me. Look at the hurt and the pain and the things that between us that I didn't resolve with him, that I was working on resolving with him. Look at, some of the things that, happened between my mother and I, that's beyond our control, but still circumstances you have to deal with, right? Corralling them, bringing them perspective, getting some tough love, for the self, having some tough conversations, going to some meditation, some retreat within the self, but also doing this within people whom you can bleed with. That is a safe place to bleed, because we can't carry and hold things in. 'Cause guess what? The more we carry and hold the toxins, the more we carry and hold the pain, the hurt, the loss, the anxiety, betrayals, whatever it is that we're holding on to in our DNA, in our chromosomes, that will become the sperm or the egg for their children. They will inherit it, and they will carry the burden of our unresolvedness. I've seen this with my own eyes. I've seen this with my own hands. I've seen this in the, in the fetus that became children, infants, that is, that came into my arms in the hospital room. I saw this myself, right? So the more we detox, the more we are clean, the more we are resolved. Now, no one is pure or perfect, but we can be perfect in our imperfections, meaning just be yourself and be honest with yourself. So, for example, if you have some wickedness in you, own it. Say, hey, I'm trying to be a good person, but I'm really a wicked person, and own it, because that's going to allow you to unburden your forthcoming child or children. If you are a great person, if you are, of clean heart and mind and body for the most part, but you do some dirt here and there, own it. Well, if you don't do any dirt, own it. And in doing so, you will less burden and hamper those children than carrying your weight and their own, right? Most children come to this world, they're supposed to be pure and innocent, and some are. But most aren't, because they are clogged up by the buildup and bacteria and other kinds of residues that come from their parents and their ancestry, right? So the more we can do the work on ourselves, prepare ourselves to be healthy and whole parents as much as we can. Because again, no one is perfect in the absolute, but we are perfect in our imperfections, as long as we own it and work with it and work through it. And that's why we need to have the right match. So that 21-year-old that told me that I was the kind of person that he would be a wonderful husband, but not right now, because she wanted to have fun. I want to thank her, because, I didn't have that kind of fun as an undergraduate. But what I did, become is who I always was, a family guy that focused on family, that take care of my family and learned to own my stuff. And the more I did that, the more I was unburdened, the more I was freed up to be the kind of father and husband and partner that I needed to be. So, for Powered by Nyame, I have been your guide and host. Please drop your questions and comments in the comment section below. Your experiences, share your thoughts. Don't be afraid to do so, even though there is a public dimension to this, but share with us you feeling you are willing to share. And until next time, stay well.